All right. It says we are live on YouTube.
Woohoo!
Welcome, everybody, to the Two Sisters Writing and Publishing channel here on YouTube. We are so excited that you're here because it is time for episode 2 of the Two Sisters Writing and Publishing podcast called 10,000 Things. Because there's 10,000 things you need to know before you write, publish, and promote a book. Right, Catherine?
That's right. At a minimum, 10,000 things.
I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and this is Catherine, my sister. Catherine?
Catherine Greenspan, hello. Hi.
And we love writing and publishing, so we started a company called Two Sisters Writing and Publishing. 4.5 years later, we have published 24 books, with book number 25 coming out this week. It's Enough to Be Dangerous by Mort Meisner. And we are rocking it because we have another book coming out every month for the next several months. So we're jamming, loving it, and we want to teach you all that we know. So Catherine, do you want to talk about our topic for today?
Yeah, our topic today is what type of first-time author are you and why does it matter? So we're going to today talk about the different types of first-time authors, and then on subsequent podcasts, we'll dive deeper into those. So be listening today for what type of first-time author you are.
I love that topic because, well, first of all, right now during the pandemic, so many people are coming to us. They've been sitting on their book idea for years and years, and now suddenly they realize that now is the time. So Catherine and I are constantly answering 10,000 questions from people. Oh, I have half a book written. Oh, I just have an idea. Oh, I have my book and I went with a self-publishing and I hated it, blah, blah. So now we're here to help you make it happen right. So here's what we want to do. We want to go through the different types of first-time authors, and we want to know which one you are. So let us know which one of these resonates with you. You can leave us a comment, ask a question, and we'd be delighted to answer. So the topic of episode 1 is, what type of first-time author are you and why does it matter? Catherine, do you want to talk about the first type of
Yeah,
author?
the first type of author is the non-author. This is the person who everybody says to you when you tell your life story or you share about an event or something you survived or you went through, and everybody's response is, you should write a book. And your response is, oh, but it's just little old me, it's super boring. So people have been telling you for years, you should write a book. And now you realize, hey, they're right.
So that's author type number 1. Now, author type number 2 deals with, well, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to write it yourself? Or are you going to use a ghostwriter? That's a writer for hire who writes the book as if they're you. So the next type of author is someone who actually hires a ghostwriter to write the book for them so they don't have to do the work. A lot of times, highly accomplished people who have neither the time nor the desire to write the book themselves, but they do have the money to pay someone else, hiring a ghostwriter is the best option because they're already busy being the superstar that they are, and they might not have the writing skills or feel confident in that. So
Or they
that's
might
the,
not be interested. They might have absolutely zero desire in sitting down at a computer, sitting down with a piece of paper. It's more about they need to tell their story.
yeah.
So they get help from a ghostwriter. And a ghostwriter, the definition of a ghostwriter or the experience of working with a ghostwriter is where the person with the story sits down and the ghostwriter interviews them, hears their stories, and then turns around and creates writing from the voice of the person telling the story who had the experience. That's the catch. That's the dynamic element to a ghostwriter. And there are lots of ghostwriter horror stories, but not with us, because we What do you call us, Elizabeth? Literary
Literary
chameleons?
chameleons. Yes. In fact, Cedric King, one of our authors, he always talks about how we make him sound better than himself. We've heard authors say they worked with other ghostwriters who were not able to strictly make it sound like the author that they're writing for, because so for us, we're like a clear channel. We're the author, we like channel the author, and then we write as if we're them. And being a literary chameleon, a chameleon changes color. It's a lizard, changes color. If it's on a green leaf, it turns green. If it's on brown bark, it turns brown. So we're able to capture that voice. And I really think that being mixed race is the secret sauce in our ability to do that, because we're able to view the world through so many different perceptions. So that makes it easy, right?
That is right, which leads us directly into the type of first-time author number 2. This is the person who has an idea to write a book, has a great story in their head, and they have no idea. Every time they sit down to start writing, they go blank. They get up and do the dishes. They get up and do a load of clothes, of laundry. They never get the content out, even though they've got these great ideas for a book. Elizabeth, do you want to talk more about this person?
This is the ideal coaching client because they need a book coach to help them crystallize their idea. They have this like vast nebulous idea in their head, like, oh, my book, my book. But then when you ask them, like, okay, who's it for? I don't know, everybody. No, your book can't be for everybody. You hope it is, but you really have to have a target reader so that you can write directly for them. If you're scattered all over the place, you won't focus, and your book will wander all over, left, right, center, up, down, all around, and it won't be cohesive, and it won't be engaging for the reader. It'll be scattered. So a book coach helps an individual like this actually focus their topic, create an outline, and create like a framework, or think of it like a GPS on your book journey. You're at point A, and you want the fastest and most efficient route to get to your destination, which is to complete an excellent book and publish it, promote it, and get very good reception for it.
Right. So the book coach is like the personal trainer at the gym. You go and you sign up with the personal trainer, and your goal is to get fit, to learn how to use the machines, because on your own, you've never done them. So that the book coach, this person needs accountability, and they need commitment to their own process, because the book is not going to write itself. So then that leads us directly to the third type of first-time author. This is the person who has bursts of inspiration on like a Saturday morning. They go to their computer and they spend 3 hours just pouring it all out and out and out and out and out. And then Sunday comes, and then the week goes by, and then the next Saturday, they're so excited to go to their computer and work on it. And they read it and they start editing it. And then the next Saturday comes along and they're still editing it. And they're never getting past that inspiration point. They don't ever build the confidence to keep going, because they're just focusing on those little bursts of inspiration.
Right. And so then what they create is not really coherent, and they again need some guidance on how to sustain their inspiration so that they actually finish writing a book. And a lot of times this person will rewrite chapter 1 and have the best chapter 1 you've ever seen, but you can't publish a book with just chapter 1. You have to finish the book. So, and that's hard. It takes a lot of discipline to sit for hours, weeks, months, and to get it all done. Especially, I just interviewed one of our authors the other day, and she said there was a time where she like broke down and cried because She literally taped together pieces of paper because her story seemed disjointed. And she had this huge stream of paper across the room. And she said, oh my gosh. But she stuck with it. And she said, no, I'm going to do this. So writing is very difficult. And you have to like sacrifice the fun. Like you could be going out, you could be doing all kinds of other things. You could just be sitting and watching a movie. But when you're really committed, you have to burst past just those little spurts and really create a schedule and a long-term commitment to getting it done. And so that's why what Catherine said about having a guide to keep you accountable in the form of a book coach is really, really important. Now, some people join writing groups, so you don't necessarily have to pay a book coach, but if you join a writing group, that keeps you accountable. If you meet every week and they're like, okay, what'd you write this week? And you say nothing, they're going to look at you like, well, why are you in a writing group? Why are you saying you're writing a book if you're not doing it? So it's really important to have that sort of accountability with people that you want to make sure you are in good standing with.
And that leads to number 4. This is the 4th type of first-time author. This is the person who can get beyond the inspiration, who's written journal entries that are like a loose draft of their book, or they've got a rough draft. They're just not sure if it's good enough or how it should flow. This person has the content maybe from a coaching course or a workbook or lots of blog posts or podcasts, but it's not yet book worthy and you don't know what to do with it. That person is the 4th type of first-time author.
Mhm, mhm. So I've met several people like this who have a course that they already teach online or in person, or they have a podcast and they have the transcripts from it. And they're like, okay, here's my book. This is the content that's going to be my book. It doesn't necessarily directly translate. For example, podcast transcripts. Awesome. You have your topics, you can make chapters out of those topics, but there's a lot of chitter chatter in a podcast, like especially at the beginning, and then you have to like sift through to really get to those golden nuggets. And another part of that is that requires more work than just having the transcript is you might talk about certain issues, but if you don't define them and drill down harder in a book, the reader might be, you're just glossing over the topic. The reader will be confused and not informed or taught as you intended with the book. So another thing is you might be used to teaching your course with a certain curriculum in a certain way, and it makes sense while you're doing it that way. But then when you look at your content and say, is this really a book? Is this understandable if I'm not sitting here explaining it to my student or my client? And so that material also needs to be massaged to be more reader friendly for the reader who's sitting alone without you teaching the course. So having that content to start is awesome. It also shows that you're an expert in your field, which makes you more trustworthy as the author in terms of trying to teach me something. So you've got a head start when you have your own content, but it's not enough for a book. It needs to be tweaked significantly to transform into book format.
Right, because it's a totally different experience to read a book versus to read an online blog or to be sitting in a classroom and receiving a lesson. So there are a lot of nuances that a book has that you wouldn't necessarily have to consider if you were just doing blogs or coaching or a workbook. So that's the 4th type. This is the person who has the content, but it's not yet book worthy. The 5th type of new author, first time author, this is the person who's good and committed. been working diligently over and over and over. They may have even hired an editor, a proofreader, this person, that person, but they still don't feel like it's done. And there's a sense of overwhelm, stuck, confusion, procrastination, and they really can't focus the topic.
No, that is a really bad place to be. And that's when a lot of people call us because they're like, help! I don't know what to do. And so a lot of times it's you can't see the forest for the trees, but we can easily hone in on the trees and the forest and your big picture and your macrocosm and your microcosm. And we're able to, because we're not so deeply emotionally enmeshed in your story and your content, we're able to say, okay, here's what you need to do. And we help you like chisel it down and you're like, boom. And the cool thing is once you gain that momentum, the procrastination goes away. Once you gain the clarity, the procrastination goes away because procrastination is fear. Procrastination is worry that it's not good enough. Procrastination is just feeling like you're wasting your time because it's not, you're like on a treadmill of words and it's not going where you want it to go. So we're able to step in and help you be like, okay, focus, discipline, commitment, schedule, publication date, marketing. Let's do this.
And then the sixth type of first-time author is the book is done, but you don't know what to do. You're not sure. You look online for how do I know my book is done? And again, you really need professional help knowing it's good because you are ready to take the next step, but you've heard horror stories about books being out there and they've got too many typos and Amazon rejects them. So you really need professional help, but exactly what professional help do you need? Do you, is your book interesting or is it boring? Does it need professional editing? Does it need, this is beyond developmental editing would be one of the previous authors. This author really just needs somebody with like eagle eyes to go over it and make sure it's good.
So that would involve a manuscript evaluation. It's something that we do where we read your manuscript and we are like, okay, you're missing this, or oh, this is great, but you don't really need this. And it helps you focus on whether you're hitting your target audience, whether you're presenting a concise and engaging story or how-to instructions. And it's really awesome to work with authors on things like this because first of all, it's a huge accomplishment to sit down and write a book on your own. Huge. So many people talk about doing it. They never do it or they start and stop. And anyway, to actually finish a book is beautiful. And so then, like Catherine said, there's sort of a crisis in confidence, like, oh, is this good enough? Or, oh, I feel like so many other people have this book topic. It doesn't matter. You're you, and nobody else can write your story or present your information your way. So just do it. You will help someone. And by not writing your book, who knows how many people could be suffering right now because they don't know the lessons that you could teach them. You could even save a life with your book. It's very powerful.
So this type of author, we've done a lot of manuscript evaluations for people who their biggest question when they're done with their book is my voice consistent? Or they might ask it in a different way, but it's that sense that the voice of the storyteller of the book is consistent and doesn't vary. And you can't, that's not something you can tell yourself. It's best if you have an outside person evaluate that. So a lot of people in this stage come to us for manuscript reviews or evaluations because they have some burning question that they need answered, and that question will lead to them being in the seventh and last category of first-time authors. The book is done and it's ready to publish.
Yes, yes. And that was the case with our most recent book, Enough to Be Dangerous. Mort Meisner had Stephanie Roop write the book, and it was done. It just needed editing, but all books need editing. And boom, it's about to be published on October 1st. So here it
And
is.
how
This
does,
is
and, but if you're a first-time author, what does that mean? Like, how do you even know what it means to publish a book?
Well, you take our workshop where we teach you the 4 different ways to publish a book: self-publishing, independent publishers, hybrid publishers like us, or the big 5 in New York. So there's so much to learn, and that's why publishing is like a big portion of the 10,000 things. It might be 10,000 things unto itself, because you have to decide which publishing option is best for your timeline, your content,
Budget?
your budget, your desire to invest time, energy, frustration in pursuing a literary agent and then having them pitch your book to editors. That can take a long time. And then once you get a book deal, it could be a year, even 2, before your book is published. But then again, they could be paying you a large sum of money. So it's up to you to decide what model of publishing is best for you. And you should learn as much as you can first. Yeah, Catherine?
Oh, I was going to say the main thing for some people is whether or not they want to sell the rights to their book.
Yeah.
And if they do sell the rights, does that mean they sell the rights to any derivative content like a workbook or workshops? So it's every single avenue of publishing has pros and cons. And if you're just doing Google searches trying to find the answer, you're going to see the pros and the cons of every one, and you're still going to be so confused. So
that's why it's important to talk to somebody like us or anybody else who's well versed in writing and publishing books, because they can provide you with some guidance that will be tailored for your best interests.
right, because Google doesn't ask you questions back.
Yeah. So what looks good for one author might not be good for you. And there's a huge amount of work that goes into marketing and promoting a book. That is a whole nother conversation, but you need to know what you're getting into with each publisher, because some publishers will do promotions, some won't, some expect you to do a lot. And so, you want to plan it out. That's why we're doing this podcast. So you can enter in the whole endeavor armed with this information to make it as successful as possible.
And one big thing with publishing is it's sort of like a marriage. The book is, the book comes out, that's the wedding, and then the marriage is theoretically for the rest of your life. It's a long-term relationship with your
Yeah.
publisher.
Right.
And you need to know that going in, because if you just find an online publisher, you've got a long-term relationship with them.
Yeah, and there's so many catches to a lot of these companies out here. Like, I wrote an inquiry to a company. It was a publishing company that you pay. And I was just interested in learning something about what they do. And they were so aggressive. They phoned me multiple times a day. They emailed me nonstop. I was appalled. And
I think they were texting you too.
I couldn't believe it. And to the person who doesn't understand that that's a super aggressive sales tactic, who's like, oh my gosh, a publisher's calling me. We want to protect people from, if that's the best route for you, go for it. But I was very turned off by the aggressiveness of it. And so that's why, if you have any Twitter in your gut or gut feeling that something isn't right, don't do it. If the price seems exorbitant, or if the person seems to be promising you the moon and all the stars for a low amount of money. Another author told me they heard that from a company. I mean, they said this company was offering them like so many perks and the price was so low. And I thought, That's impossible. So just but you might not know that. So you really need some kind of consultant you can seek, or a publishing mentor, even if it's another author who's been exposed to different processes of publishing.
So that wraps up the 7 different types of first-time authors there are, and we will have subsequent podcasts dedicated to each of the different types. And in the future, we're going to have guests on the podcast, some of our authors who have fallen into each of those categories.
Yeah, it's really important to know which type of author you are, because then you understand what kind of help you do or do not need. Really, really important. It's like publishing is this journey, and your entry point will determine how well, how fast, how efficiently, and how successfully you can get to that final destination. And the goal is to do it by wasting as little money as possible, wasting as little time as possible, and writing the most brilliant, impactful book possible to get there. And you need help. One of our book coaching clients told me that. He said the reason he wanted to work with me was so that he, who had never written a book before, could get it done the most efficiently and effectively way possible. Period. It's just like if you want to, again, Catherine said, hire a personal trainer to get you in shape. They know exactly how much you need to exercise. They help you with a diet, and they help you go from wherever you're starting to fit and fabulous in the least amount of time with the least amount of effort.
Well, and they help you figure out where the settings on the machine should be. You don't just walk up to a leg press and just get on it and just not change the weight and the height and no, you have to, there's so many details. And also to do it right. How do you do it right without hurting yourself? How do you write a book right without hurting yourself?
While we're on that topic, let's talk about legalities for a hot second. We'll do another show, but Catherine just said, not hurting yourself. Like, plagiarism is a thing. People don't realize that you can't just copy and paste something out of a book or an article and put it in your book. That's not okay. You have to get written permission to republish any copyrighted material. Otherwise, it's called copyright infringement. And then,
no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to just say, also, if you're writing about other people, you should definitely have a lawyer look at what you're writing to make certain that it's not going to cause you any legal problems down the road.
Right. And little details like, can I quote the lyrics from my favorite Elton John song?
Right.
Can you? What's the answer? Can you put any picture you want in your book? Can you? How do you figure it out? How do you get permission?
Right. You need somebody to warn you and tell you what's acceptable or not, so that all that effort you put into your book
so you don't get sued.
Exactly. Right. So I always say, when in doubt, ask a lawyer.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this wraps up episode number 2 of the Two Sisters Writing and Publishing podcast of 10,000 things you need to know before, during, and after you write and publish your book.
Yes. Thank you, Catherine. So excited.
Next week, we're going to dive into the concept of whether or not you should write the book yourself or hire a ghostwriter.
Yes, I like to call it angel writer. But if I could just share real quick, as a ghostwriter, angel writer, sometimes it literally is like ghosts show up and tell you something. Because the term ghostwriter means you're invisible and the other person's name is on the cover of the book, but you wrote it. So you're a ghost, you're invisible, right? Sometimes when I'm deeply immersed in writing a book for someone else, I literally get awakened in the middle of the night by people involved in the story who aren't alive anymore. And they tell me stuff and they're like, wake up, write this down. And it's accurate. It's bizarre, it's wild, but it really happens. So ghostwriter, angel writer, channeling, it's all really
Literary chameleon. More on that topic next week.
Okay. Thank you for watching 10,000 Things, the podcast with two sisters writing and publishing. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins.
And I'm Catherine Greenspan.
And we love to write, publish books, and teach you all the experience and expertise that we have so that you can proceed on your writing journey with smooth sailing.
So Elizabeth, if people have questions, where could they send the questions to us, or our topics, questions and topics?
Well, I'll put something in the description box where people can go to our website, or they can email me, Elizabeth@twosisterswriting.com, Elizabeth@twosisterswriting.com. And you can go to our website, twosisterswriting.com, and it's twosisterswriting.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn, you can find us on Instagram, and you can find us on Facebook. So we'd be delighted to answer any questions that you have. And if you're finding that this program is giving you value, please like, share, subscribe to our channel, and comment. And also, please also hit the notification bell so you'll know every time we go live or post a new video about our authors. We have a really cool program called Book Talks where I interview authors, and I also interview people about writing, and it's really a wonderful resource for you to learn everything you ever wanted to know about writing and publishing.
Excellent.
Excellent. Okay, well, we will see you next week for episode 3, where you're going to learn about whether you need a ghostwriter to write your book for you. I'm Elizabeth.
I'm Catherine.
And we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Bye. Happy writing.
Happy writing.